All right. Hello, guys. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Awesome.
Good. How are you?
Awesome.
Glad to hear. I'm doing well as well. People don't ask me that usually, so I appreciate you
Yeah.
asking. But when I have new people on the podcast, I ask them a question. So I'm going to ask you guys as well. The question is, what is one aspect of Christ, the Trinity, the Holy Spirit, all the Trinity, their character that has been most evident in your life?
That's a good question. You going?
I would say is it safe to say a keeper? You know, I, I feel like the Holy Ghost has been a keeper for me. God's been a keeper. It's been many times, of course, which we shared in the book that people say throw in the towel or they try. Like there's times when I like completely gave up. So and I know people believe in various of things, but my faith in God has really kept me this far. So when I wanted to give up, God was definitely right there keeping me, even when I didn't want to. So for that, I'm very, very appreciative.
That's good.
Yeah, I love that.
What about you, Rich?
I would say the fact that he's grace giving, because I know as a believer, there have been many times, especially before I gave my life to God, that, if it wasn't for his grace, even when I was out there, cutting up, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So that's one thing that I've learned is to practice that even with the people in my life, people I come across, giving grace, because God graces us every single day. None of us are perfect. So, trying to be more like him and extending that grace when someone may do us wrong, or I don't know, someone may cut us off on the street, like not, just getting so bent out of shape about it, but trying to be more like Jesus and forgive people. But most definitely just that aspect of grace, I think, is so important.
Yeah, that's really good. Really good. Amen. So, as you guys can see, we'll be talking about male sexual abuse survivors, and there is a book that you guys are a part of. So, I wanted you guys to tell people about Echoes and your roles individually.
Rich, would you like to go first?
Or okay, so Echoes. I've been blessed to be a part of this project with this phenomenal group of guys. Really, I call them they're survivors, but they're definitely very brave. And to be this vulnerable and transparent and open with their story takes a lot of strength. And so I'm on the side of an advocate. I'm not a survivor of sexual trauma. However, I've been able to connect with these guys on a deeper level. We have went on trips out of town, so we've had that opportunity to all come together and just really get to know each other, really connect with each other. And so Echoes, it's an anthology project. I think I said that right. Where it features the
Yes, you
stories,
did.
the stories of survivors of sexual trauma. Some of these guys are survivors from childhood. Some of them had things happen to them in their adulthood. So it covers the whole gamut of survivorship, I would say. And the guys are at different levels in their journeys as well. You have some who, are a little farther along than there are others who are still on that journey. But I would say that ultimately they're all still on a journey of healing. It's just that different people are at different places. So I've been fortunate enough, again, to be a part of this project, to support these guys. I've learned so much from them in terms of how to support survivors, specifically male survivors. And so it's just been an honor to be connected to all of them, including Daquan.
I'm just smiling and overjoyed because he doesn't give himself as much credit as he should. All those things are very correct. And before I get on my intake on the book or what the book means to me, Why? Well, I'll say this first. I am a co-author of the book. I am a survivor of sexual trauma. Um, I want to say all those things Rich said was great and very on point. But I also want to say this to all those who are advocates and allies, which Rich definitely is. He's so humble, as people say, humble. He's so humble. So, but no, he's been a part of our journey from the beginning. He was connected to, I believe, to Robert, and of course, one of our other friends, our great friends, but also part of the book, Ron. And he's been on this journey and even taking his time to come out and support us. And I tell him all the time, and also the other friends as well that are advocates, they're our brothers, and they're just as important as all the other brothers in this journey. He's taking the time out to come out and support us. Every single time he can come out to be a part of this event and share and take and just listen, and also pour into the other guys. He's taking that time to do that. So I tell him all the time, but I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
But this book for me is definitely all those things and more. It's like, and I was just actually in the chapter, and I didn't mean to flip it to them, but I was looking at it, and it was on page 13. It says breaking the silence, and that's what I believe this book is. It's us breaking the norm. I hate to say that it's become normal that we don't talk about this, and it's almost become like a taboo, which I know which it isn't, but we've made it that way because maybe we don't have the foundation to talk about these things. Maybe we don't have the platform. Maybe we are just or we're scared. But that's what we're doing when we're breaking the silence in this book. And I love what Robert has done, which is the founder of this, and also my mentor, allowing us to be able to share our stories and share it so deeply and share exactly how we felt. And this book will show you, not just men or survivors that are sharing their stories, but it's a resourceful book. It's a foundation of how to talk about these things. And I believe that it's going to be used in colleges and churches, amongst family. And I hope that it's a start for men to start their journey to wholeness. That's what I hope for. I hope men read this book and say, you know what, I have a voice. So that's what I'm hoping. In so many words, I'm hoping men read this and break out that silence. That's what I really hope.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. I don't know why the Lord put it on my heart, like men's mental health and stuff like this. But I don't know. It's just been heavy on my heart to just allow men to have these conversations, because I know for so many years the feminist movement has been so huge, and then you wonder, like, where are the men? Where are their voices, and what are their experiences? So that's why I've taken different opportunities to talk about men's mental health, masculinity, and things like that on the podcast. So I knew this was like a next step. I just had to kind of figure out who to do it with. So I'm grateful that you guys came on today and were vulnerable enough to do this with me. So I appreciate you guys.
Because I, in the beginning stages of this, first of all, I tell my friends and I tell my brothers, this is not something I wanted to do. And what I mean by that is, if I could have picked any other story to talk about, I probably would have did that, But because I have these great men that are stepping up and this vulnerability that they're showing to do something like this. And let me say this too, like a lot of people think there's no fear in this or you're not nervous. Even with sharing my story and where I'm at now, I still get nervous. I still have to remind myself where I'm at with sharing this story. But there has been so many women, I'm sorry if I'm ranting on, but there's been so many women, including you, as of lately, that has been such a support. So I tell you, thank you. And I know, the Lord is not random in what he does. He's always strategic about how he does things. So thank you for this, because you guys have been shown to be our biggest supporters, our biggest.
Awesome.
So thank you. Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity.
Of course. So, and I've seen like small clips of Robert doing like groups with you guys too.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. Just hearing the small snippets, like I'd love to be a fly on the wall in those conversations. And I'm a mental health therapist, so you already know, like I want to be in there.
But if you ask Rich, oh God, they just give me chills. Those are no joke. And that's how we all.
But it looks beautiful.
When we met, what was that? That was Chicago. It was Chicago in October of last year. And we did a Survivor Circle weekend or Survivors weekend for the men in the book. And also we had the event too. I don't even know where to start. Like, people asked us when we got back, when they saw certain clips of us singing or talking and laughing or crying, like, how was that? I still don't have words for that. And that was also an introduction of us meeting each other. These men are some special men. Like, when I tell you, like, I haven't been able to let go and pour out ever like that, because I don't think I never had an opportunity or a space in which I felt safe like that. So what you guys see is just a clip, like, and we just had that experience again recently for our trip in Baltimore. I don't know. And there are certain clips that we do have, and I'll definitely be sure to send them to you. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, please do. So just quickly, because I don't want to forget, do you guys do things like this often, or is it open to the public, or is it just you guys in the book? Or
how do we do this, Rich? It's like
so it's kind of open to to an extent it's open to the public.
Yeah.
So I'd say like the events which are more geared towards the book and advocating for survivors, like the events. Yes. I would say those are open to the public, but a lot of the moments that we've had that you've maybe seen some of the clips on Robert's social media were really, just kind of intimate moments with guys, like when we're like at the house or something, or just all together. And so it was really organic. I say organic and intimate because it wasn't planned to the extent like we knew that was going to happen. It's just, when God starts to move, right, you have to be obedient. And so it really just became very organic. But we do have public events, which honestly are, in my opinion, just as powerful as well. Like, there have been some very powerful moments, transformational moments for some of the people who have been in attendance to those as well.
Okay, awesome. So I'll let you guys know. We'll talk about that towards the end where they can find that. But I definitely wanted to make sure to plug that because,
definitely.
As you guys know, community is huge when you're being vulnerable and you have things that were done in the dark, like sexual abuse. So, definitely want to make sure people can get connected with that. So I just want to share a quick statistic that I found recently. If you guys have any other ones that are more up to date, you can let the people know. But in my master's, we talked about things like this, and a recent statistic that I found was 1 in 6 men have been sexually abused or assaulted.
Yes.
I don't know if is that what you guys have heard?
It's one of those that we also use to reference as well.
Okay. And also, I think it's important to note that a lot of male sexual abuse is underreported, way more underreported than females. So that number is probably a lot higher.
Mm-hmm. And I think from what I've heard,
which is sad, which is really sad.
Yeah. I've heard that it's probably more like really 1 in 3 because it is so underreported. There are, as you said, a lot more men out there who just haven't spoken up or, come forward yet about their trauma, or they may not even recognize that what happened to them was, sexual trauma. They may think it was just some kind of coming of age that we may talk about. But so I want to add that to it.
And I wanted to mention that as well. I think, obviously you guys can talk to it way more than I can. So definitely chime in whenever. But I think there's this assumption that, at some point a boy has to lose his virginity, and it's better that it's like quick and young. So he just gets it over with. Even like, I think Boosie the rapper, he had his son.
I know.
Right? He had his son, like he bought him a stripper for his like, I don't know how young he was.
And posted it, and I'm all for like Rob. Excuse me, not Rob. Even though I'm all for what Rich said with grace, and I've learned with this and what we're doing, we learn to give to give grace. But I'm trying to build up to say what I'm going to say, like seeing that and how it's posted, because I would never tell someone, especially not being a parent, of how to do things. But that really spoke to me in such a heartbreaking way, like seeing how it was posted and how proud he was of that, right? My son come of age, or even people are doing it even when their son is not of age, of course, and that's a whole nother thing. But how
Yeah.
proud he was of that, and how people celebrated it as well in the comments. Like, and I just thought we have to, and sometimes we can't blame people because you know what, they may not. You can't teach what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
But
And that may have happened to him in his childhood.
and not giving the excuse because I'll have to be accountable, right? But and that young man is thinking like this is the way to go. Like this is how it's supposed to be, and it's not. It's healthy ways to.
Right.
It's all about choice, like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? I'm sorry, I went on a rant, but how do you feel about that?
No, I think what you're saying is completely correct. At the end of the day, like as Christians, we know that there's an ultimate truth at the end of the day. So the truth is he should not have done that. Like that's what it comes down to. And we see the effects of even pornography and things on just the human brain, regardless if it's a man or a woman, at a young age. And then just throughout life, it has negative effects. So having your child have a stripper for his birthday is not a good thing. Like it's not going to be considered that.
You know what? I just needed to hear this. Like, it's triggering, and I know knowing how to deal with it and how to talk about it now. But it really disturbed me in the beginning. And I also will say, and I don't know the stats on this, but when it comes to, and I know we'll probably talk about it somewhere, but when it comes to being a survivor, because most people say victim, but being a survivor of sexual trauma or sexual assault, I would say things are looked at so differently, rather from it's someone that's a young woman and a young man, or a young man and a young woman, or rather it's another man was molested by the same sex, or a woman was molested by the same sex. And it's almost, it's sickening because it's celebrated when a man is, I've seen it, not all the time, but it's celebrated when a young man is sexually assaulted by a woman.
Yeah.
And I know one of my brothers, which is not here, but a young man named Jay Wallace, which is one of our brothers that's in the book, and how he shared his story concerning that, and not really knowing that was happening to him. But when it said, and I've seen this and heard this when stories come out, a man was sexually assaulted by his teacher, which was a woman, or another, and it's celebrated. It's like, I've heard stuff like, oh, but you got some, and you know what? Oh, that's my boy. I've heard stuff like that. Never understood why that was celebrated. I guess maybe that's another thing, but I don't know.
Yeah. So did you want to say something to that, Rich?
Yeah. Not to repeat what you said, Daquan, but you're right. Like in our society, you do hear about it. I mean, I remember being in high school, middle school, specifically high school, and guys, talking about, I guess locker room talk is what they call it, about, teachers and things like that. And like you said, it is celebrated, but I feel like at the same token, if that was a young lady and it was a male teacher, it's looked at totally different. It shows the double standard that we have in our society when it comes to this topic specifically.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this thing about men losing their virginity, that's when you become a man,
Yes, so that's what
the sooner the better.
Yeah.
And I saw this video on Twitter like years ago, but it was really disturbing to me. This boy hops back in the car with his friend. He's like, "Oh, like, did you get some?" And he's like has the tears in his eye. Like she like basically took it from him.
Wow.
And it's like, that's literally sexual assault. He got in the car and he's saying like, I didn't even want to do that. Basically, like you could tell in his eyes he was in shock.
That hurts me.
Yeah, and it's like, why are we? This is not funny to be laughing about. This boy was literally sexually assaulted, but because it's in your mind, like, oh, men have to enjoy it. If it's pushed on you, like you have to enjoy it. That's just so sad and wrong, and that's why I think the numbers are so low and it being reported.
It's this false sense of masculinity, like. And what a man is. And I remember Robert saying one time on his podcast, asking the people that were on there, what do you think a man is, right? And they all answered differently. And I think a lot of times what a man is, it was what was around you, what was your surrounding, right? Yeah. So if you were, in the streets and, you were looking for someone, a lot of times these drug dealers would bring other young men in and raise you up and teach you to do what they were doing. Okay, well, that's your version of what a man is, right? And so we have this false sense of what a man is supposed to be. And it's like, it's everything but that what we've been taught. And again, I know it's one of those things and it's so important why you're doing what you're doing, and bringing awareness to what men deal with in general, because it's just been a thing that's been taught over the years.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just sad, because that was my thing. I think when I lost my virginity, I was very young. I don't know if I even told anybody, but maybe some close friends. But even then, we weren't taught, as people say, the birds and the bees and the importance of it. I may have heard what sex was and how it was supposed to be in church, but that was little to none because I was busy doing my own thing. And and it was just like, okay, now how many women you have, right? And how much money you have, and women you slept with, and et cetera. And then, all right, now you're a man. That's what it was. And it was never the healthy way of what it was and how it's supposed to be was never taught. Because unhealthy ways of me learning was, and other men learning probably was by the people around you. Learning unhealthy ways of what that was by porn, and so that's interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure. So I know you kind of hinted at it, but how old were you when you first experienced it? And how long did it take you to actually tell someone?
Oh man. So the transparency of it all, because I still like say it out loud and can't believe it. But and I just shared this with my mom recently, how in the beginning, and I wasn't, how open can I be on here?
As open as you need to.
I just want to be mindful, right? So,
no. I'll give it a little disclaimer in the beginning. So,
okay. So, for me, it was one of my mom's boyfriends, and it was around, no penetration of that act happened, or that act happened, but I do remember him holding me down and touching me and everything else, and that was my first. Not knowing, first of all, I was only 4. All right. I was 4.
Okay.
So I'm not knowing what exactly happened. And it was also a memory that I try to forget. I really, really try to forget. I know trauma has a way of making you forget things, but I purposely forgot because, of who the person was, because I was old enough to know too that he was very young, but so he was, in my mind, he was a real good friend, a big brother in my mind. And I believe he was drunk at the moment. Not giving an excuse to what he's done, but I remember being on my mom's bed, him holding me down and touching me and stuff like that, and trying to take my clothes off. And it seemed like it lasted forever. And nobody was there. Nobody really heard what was going on. So that was something that I try to forget. And then it would come back every now and then, but I said I would never vow to talk about that. I actually just told my mom this a couple of days ago.
Wow.
And then my experience with one of my abusers started when I feel like, all the a lot of different acts that really traumatized me was around 5th grade. And my story was I was abused from 5th grade to around 10th grade. And in Saginaw, which is the city where I'm from, Saginaw, Michigan, a small place, it seemed like no matter where I went, this man found me. And real small place, but no matter where I went, it seemed like he would find me everywhere I went, everywhere we relocated. Wow. Yeah, that was some of the most traumatizing times of my life. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So you say so was your mom the first person you told?
No,
couldn't have been. So who was the first person that you told? Yes. Just talk to me a little about that. Like why, what that was like for you telling your mom last, but also who was the first person you told?
Oh man, the first person was one of my good friends. And I told my brother around I don't know, around 2009. No, maybe like 2010, 2011, somewhere in there. And even then, I don't know the study in which the website comes from, so I hate to quote things and not know, but I was thinking about the one that Rob actually shared with one of the churches we were at just recently in Baltimore, how the studies showed that it may take up to 25 years for men just to admit something happened to him.
Wow.
And that's not putting words to it. So, because men don't say I was raped, right? Men don't say, it's hard for men to say I was molested. It's hard for men to say I've been touched, to be honest with you.
Right.
So, I think at the moment I shared like somebody like, I don't know how I explained it, but I said it, but I didn't know how to put words to it. And then later on, one of my friends told me, because I believe he shared it with people, with his church, and it was part of his ministry. And it also happened to him. So I couldn't give the words back then. So around 2010, 11, I shared it, but I still didn't put the words to it. I was just like, I know what happened, but I wasn't admitting it. Now, as far as actually saying that was maybe 2019.
Okay.
2019.
And how long after that was that? How long after the 10th grade was that?
Oh, gosh. Well, I graduated 2010. So.
Okay.
Ooh.
So 9 years.
Around 9. Yeah. And putting words to it, actually say it out loud, I was raped, I was molested, I was taken advantage of, was around 2018, 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was that experience like for you, talking to the first person?
It was tough. It was tough, and I think I may have shared it because he had put something like that on Facebook or asked a question, and so we were talking, and I told him about it. And even then, there's a lot of things that happen too as a survivor that you purposely try to forget. Like even in the book, there's things I didn't share because I wasn't sure how vulnerable I could be or how open I could be yet. And there's also things that I didn't remember until the book was released. It started jogging my memory. So it was tough. I'm a crybaby. I'm sure I cried. And I remember him just telling me, like, you have people that support you, but at the moment, there wasn't any, truthfully, that particular brother, but I didn't have the support. I feel like I was, first of all, in my case, I'll give you the experience of that child and how I felt as a child. I already felt like I was a black sheep. I was going to church, didn't have a relationship with God, but also doing my own thing, in and out the streets. During that time, I'm a recovering alcoholic. So during that time, I was definitely drinking club and doing all that stuff. And community, first of all, I know what community means, but I wasn't looking for that because I wasn't looking to share it publicly, And then also in the black community, there's so many stigmas that come with that about sharing your story and what it means, how people are going to look at you. And then also as a survivor in general, you have to fight for people to believe you. I didn't want to go through none of that. And during that time, I also was being abused by my mom's boyfriend, like physically abused. So I shared in the book how I was taught that I didn't matter. My boundaries didn't matter, right? That I had no personal space to myself, not knowing how to say no and not having a voice. So I'm saying that to give to tell you, I guess, how I feel, what was happening during that time. So even when I shared it with him, it was because he sensed it, or he said, I saw it in the spirit. I think he was telling me, like, I never mentioned to this particular friend anything. So that was my first experience, and never talked about it after that. Never.
Okay.
Not until 2000, around 2019, 2019, 20, somewhere in there. And that's when I started seeing Robert. He was actually the only person I knew, and another brother of mine, but publicly sharing it. And Rob didn't only just share I was abused. It was like he gave words to it, and he shared detail in it. Even if I shared out, I was going to say I was sexually abused. I wasn't giving detail. I didn't want people to know that part of my life. I didn't want to revisit that part of my life. So I'm definitely not about to share that. But that's where the beginning part was of meeting him. That's when I started actually sharing details about what happened to me.
Yeah. And as you were talking, you were saying you are a recovering alcoholic, and that's one of the things I noticed about people that are sexually abused, alcoholism, different things like that,
Yeah.
end up kind of grabbing hold of you. So
Wow.
how do you feel like you were talking about boundaries as well. So how do you feel like this experience affected your temperament? Does that make sense?
Ooh, I did. I want to say, you know what? I was growing up. I'll say this. I was always the nice. Not to say. I want to say the nice child of all my brothers and sisters. I don't want to say that, but I was. I always had a good temperament about myself, you know. But I also had, through this trauma, created anger issues. I was very angry. I was very distraught. I was low self-esteem. Very little to no confidence at all. And then there was times when it changed, when I was just an a-hole, when I didn't want to be around anybody. I don't want to share anything with anybody. I became isolated, and that's, yeah, I want to say it changed me for the worse. Until now, I feel like now I've learned to use those things as a stepping stone, and those things actually turned out to make me better. But yeah, my temperament about me was good at first. And I think what happened was I was a good kinded person, maybe because I didn't not wanting anyone else to feel how I felt. It's safe to say that. Yeah.
And it's very conflicting because I was also
It's very
molested
conflicting.
when I
That's
was
why I'm trying
younger.
to learn how
So
to answer that, because it wasn't consistent. It wasn't.
yeah, and that's literally what it is. It's very confusing. Like you're angry, but you also want people to be close to you, but you're also like, please don't touch me.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know
exactly.
if
And I wanted to say that, but I wasn't sure. It was, yeah. And
it's
yeah,
confusion. Literally, it's confusion.
it is.
So I'm not just asking you just to ask you things. I want this to be helpful for other men and girls who have also experienced this, so they can kind of hear,
of course,
you know, the result of things. So how do you feel like it affected your sexuality?
You know, I was reading that. I was reading that. It's crazy. I remember you sent me those questions. I was like, how do I answer this? Because then it also proves to put me in a vulnerable place. It made me, first of all, being molested, or for my case, I was raped. So being raped made me feel very little. And I'm getting to the part of sexuality. It made me feel like, again, I was saying earlier, I'll say this. It made me realize that it's hard for me to say no, right? I know people say no is a complete sentence, but for me, I didn't really realize that. So when it came to anything sexual, it was just like, it was a go, you know, and I also feel during that time, especially times when I feel like, and nobody knew, but when I was on this rampage and just like having sex here, having sex there, and everything sexual in general, I think was messed up, but or tainted. But I felt like sex was the only thing I was good for, if I can just be real.
Wow.
So when it comes to sexuality, I felt like if I didn't give, and that's something I'm still working with in general in my life, like, but I felt like if I didn't give that, because I'm a person that gives my all with friendships and relationships, and I felt like if I didn't give that part of me, that I wasn't, that people wouldn't accept me, right? And I also feel like I was the only thing I was good at, like that was a big part of my life. And everything was tainted, and I started to think that anybody that I'm trying to figure out how to say this.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't know. I felt, and so many times I compromised because I felt like, and many times when I didn't want to, but I did anyway, because I felt like, I don't know. I just felt like sex was a big part of my life. Like it needed to happen, And again, thinking that was the only thing I was good at, that happened for so long. And that ruined, with that being said, that ruined a lot of relationships, or it could have been, you know, even ruined a lot of friendships too. And I started to mistake sex with love. So it's like, so I started to think, well, if I'm having sex with someone, and not that I fell fast for anyone or fallen in love, but I thought that was love. And it could be in a healthy way. Let me say that too.
Right.
A disclaimer. But yeah, I thought that was love. For so long I thought that was love. And that's something that to be honest, that I'm still I'm still telling myself every day, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does the healing process look like for you? What have been the most helpful things for you in the process?
First of all, my faith in God for sure. And let me say this too, and I know everybody doesn't agree, but faith and therapy goes together. So
Jesus and therapy.
Jesus
I gotta
therapy.
says it.
Shout out to my bro Rich for the shirts. I had to just little plug. He has the shirts that says those things. So but yeah, and also surrounding yourself with people that want more for you and don't want more from you. Right?
That's good.
So I'm surrounded by great people now that teach me that just seeing the giant in me, constantly speaking into my life and helping me to realize who I am. Also, realizing how much God loves you. And I know people say that all the time. So when we hear, we're like, because we do hear it all the time, and people say that to reference when someone's going through or for you to get it. But it's so true. When you realize how much God loves you, you start to begin to love yourself. Everything was tainted, and even with the sex and everything else and all the parts of my life, because I didn't love myself. I'm just starting to love myself. That's the truth. That's the truth. And that's the truth I couldn't share. I feel like I couldn't share at the beginning, but I'm just starting to love myself. I'm just starting to figure out what that looks like.
Yeah.
Even this had a part to do with my life, even forgiveness, right? Because forgiveness also helped me start loving myself. But my forgiveness came with forgiving the people that sexually assaulted me first, my offenders. Forgiving myself was the hardest.
Wow.
Forgiving myself was the hardest. And so for me, I would say community, right? Community is big, which I didn't know we had. In the Black community, I definitely didn't see that, because I speak for a Black man. Community in general, I didn't see much of that at all, right?
So how'd you find it?
Robert Marshall, which was the founder of all this, which is also my mentor. When I was speaking about 2019, when I started to share it, only because, again, I saw his story, and I started to share little things, and I wasn't getting responses from family, but certain people on social media, and I wasn't looking for responses. I was just like, this is heavy on me, and I got to just get it out. I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm like, I think I'm brave enough to share this too, right? Because I think I shared it with my best friend for years as well. But I remember him reaching out to me. First of all, during the time Robert reached out to me, I reached out to him first, but didn't realize how busy he was. And my brother passed away July 4th from COVID. So during that time,
oh wow,
during that time in general, I was going through a lot, lost a lot of people. I was also sick from COVID at one point. And then I was just at a point when I was just down bad. So this around 2020, 2020, I was struggling. I was spiraling down. Honestly, I never got help from any of this. I wasn't seeing a therapist at the moment. And you talk about community, there was none. Like, and also, even though I love my church, when it comes to Christendom in the churches and also in the Black churches, it's definitely not being talked about, but it's happening in the Black churches as well, right? And also another disclaimer, it's happening everywhere. I'm just speaking from I don't want anybody to get offended, so I'm speaking from my experience that we have faith and we have resources, but resources for sexual survivors in men was little to none. And when it was talked about, it was almost too late. It was almost because something happened, and then it has to be spoken about. But I talked to Robert, reached out to me one time in August. At the moment, be truth, I was very suicidal. I was just, my brother, it seemed like that took the life out of me. He was the one that was pushing me. I did tell him, actually, I told him in 2019, and he was pushing me to share more of this, right? And I was telling him, nobody's going to believe me, and I'm a grown man saying this, right? And, I'm just like, people say it shouldn't matter. It does. And he was pushing me to do it. So when he passed away, I was like, I don't care who is going to help. People say, yeah, it happened for a reason. I didn't care, like, because I was hurting, right? And then one day Robert called and was like, hey, man, I need you. Now, mind you, I talked to Robert a few times, didn't know Robert. Robert's like, I'm telling you what God told me. I want you to be a part of this, man. I'm not taking you away from what you're trying to do. I see you're trying to do something else as well, like what I'm doing. I'm not asking you to put to the side of anything, but I'm just asking you to be a part. And also, when I heard I need you, that really, I think, started my journey to healing, because I've never heard anybody tell me that. Not even relationships. Like, they may need something, but needing you is different,
Yep.
And I think that started, and, during that time, eventually he'd have asked me to be a part of the book. And he already had created, actually, the group, but we weren't using it yet, the Survivor Circle. I love,
Okay.
and so we just started to use that, people are coming, all the men are coming in now. But yeah.
So, Rich, what made you want to be an advocate for men who have experienced this?
So I can remember a close friend of mine back in the day sharing with me that he was abused as a kid. Like, I can remember crying, like, man, I was maybe in college when he shared that. And it was by multiple people. And so that was kind of like my first time, honestly, ever hearing about, a man being like sexually abused as a child. Like, honestly, I had never, you hear about women, but I never thought that, it could happen to men too. And so then as years have went on, I've been connected to people, actually men and women, close friends of mine who are survivors of, sexual assault, whether, again, it happened in their childhood, happened in college or in adulthood. And so for me, specifically with men, counter to what Daquan was saying, I noticed that there was a lack of resources out there for men. And with me being at the time in grad school for counseling, I was trying to figure out, like, what do I want to focus on with this? Like, I can focus on African American, I can focus on men, but specifically, like, how can I make a difference? And so I was like, wow, okay, God, all these people I'm connected to, men specifically who are survivors, they need support and they need resources. And they need people who can advocate for them, who may not have went through what they went through, but can empathize with them and walk alongside with them on the front lines and support them. And so I remember, and this was a year ago, I remember sharing a post on Facebook, just bringing awareness to sexual assault as it relates to men. And I came across, I don't know how, and I know it was God, I came across Robert's post, and he was not my friend on Facebook at the time. I didn't even know him. And I was like, oh, wow. And I was reading his post, which was kind of like his story, part of his story. And I ended up sharing it. And then he was connected to one of our other friends, Ron, who is also, as Daquan mentioned, one of the authors in the book. And I was talking to Ron about it, and Robert ended up messaging me on social media, because that's just the type of person he is. Like, he will just reach out, and we ended up connecting.
He's gonna do it right there, right then and there. Yeah.
I shared that I was interested in, this area and this topic, and that's kind of how him and I got connected. But as far as, again, like, my connection to this, just really wanted to be a resource for men. And as a therapist, being an outlet for men who need support, who may not be ready yet to publicly speak about their experience, but just maybe needed somebody to talk to about it in a therapy setting, or even as a friend or whatnot. So I saw a need.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I think, as you guys know, the Lord literally works in mysterious ways. So
Yes.
the fact that, me being a therapist as well, like my whole life, I've been giving people advice and people have come to me and told me things that they didn't tell anyone else and probably will never tell anyone else. So I just knew, like, you know what, might as well just make a career out of it. So I think that's awesome that you've done that. So, what's like some of the main things you've learned, or your most prized experiences as being an ally to these survivors?
So I would say being connected to this great group of guys, honestly, I've learned so much just from hearing them share their stories, from being literally in physical proximity to a number of them and just doing life with them. Cause I think that's important. Like, I can read all the books and, look up all the research, which is important to know that. But I think really doing life with people, walking alongside them gives you a more genuine and I would say organic experience. And so I've been able to learn from them. And, when I may get clients who are men who, may be survivors, having this connection with them helps me to know what I can do to help support them in the best way that I can. And so it's really been a blessing to be connected to them. Because it's one thing to be connected to like one person, but this is a whole group of guys who all have different experiences, right? And so I've been able to learn so much from them, and that's been helpful for me.
That's awesome. So what do you guys think is something that every man who's experienced this needs to hear?
You know what? I don't know. I'm just getting a little I'm not a little. I'm very emotional right now because I don't know. I think it's starting to hit me like what's happening. Because I wasn't doing this before. I was I don't know. I don't know where I was in life prior to this, but well, I don't know. It just hit me that we have a community to be able to help guys. Like, wow, I would say first of all, knowing that you're loved, right? And I mean this genuine source of love. Not this false sense of love for what we think it is, because a lot of times we associate love with sex, love with wanting something from you, with love with this something I'm saying this to you because I'm trying to get something from you, right? I want men to know their love without trying to take something from you. And I needed to know that because being surrounded by these men, and I would say even when connecting to Robert, first of all, let me say this too. I don't even know how me and Robert became friends. I heard Rich talk about that earlier. I don't remember being friends with this man. He just popped up one day. But and also knowing that you deserve to live. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to.
You're fine. Take your time.
But I was talking to someone this morning, like, you deserve to live, and they was like, I don't think I do. Like, you deserve to be able to break this silence and break these boundaries and these things that's been having you feeling like you can't move, like you can't move on. And like Rich said earlier, giving grace to yourself. Like at one point, I didn't think I did, not until being surrounded by these men, this community, I didn't feel like I deserved to live. I thought I was going to be spiraling my whole life. I was suicidal most of my life. I was, and not knowing why. I was dealing with long years of depression, anxiety, still suffer with anxiety now. But I have a group of men now, which is why community is so big, and having a community is so big, that pour into me, that speak life into me. That when they see I'm down, or not just even when I'm down, even on a normal day when nothing bad is happening, that they're reaching out to me and uplifting me. Community is so big, and I want to tell these guys: surround yourself with people that genuinely love you. They want more, again, wanting more from you, but not trying to take anything from you. Not an exchange, right? just wanting you to be better. Yeah, and giving again, I'll say giving grace to yourself. And it wasn't your fault. It really wasn't your fault. And let me speak from a standpoint of whether you're a young man, a young woman, right? I'm speaking for both now, or whether you were an adult. And people try to separate those things. It doesn't matter. If you were abused, if you're being sexually abused, you were sexually abused. That's the truth. It wasn't your fault, and you deserve to live. You don't deserve for that to ruin and take over your life.
Right.
And I know we didn't have it before, but there is a community out there waiting for you to support you and having your back. And just taking a first step to step out there to talk to somebody. Yeah.
That's good.
That's good. I would say knowing that as a survivor, knowing that you are seen, you are heard, you have support, because a lot of times these individuals have felt that they didn't have anybody they could go to, they didn't have anybody they could trust, right? Like, they would maybe have disclosed it to someone, that person didn't believe them. So, just really, again, it goes back to that support, because you don't have to have been through what somebody went through to connect with them and to empathize, right?
This is true.
With them, with their situation. And so I think it's important for men to know, or survivors in general, like Daquan said, men, women, children, adults, that your voice matters, that
yes.
you are an overcomer. And even no matter where you are on your journey, you could be, very fresh with just disclosing or coming to terms with what happened to you, or you could be somebody who has been on this journey for a while. Regardless of where you are on the journey, know that your story matters. We believe you. And as Daquan said, it wasn't your fault. I think that is important, because many times survivors feel like that. Well, what could I have done differently? Or maybe I did this.
Yes.
And it was like, no, it wasn't your fault that this individual took advantage of you or took something from you that didn't belong to them. Again, it all just goes down to that genuine love, support, and just being there. And for some people like me who are advocates, being a listening ear. Sometimes you don't have to do a lot of talking. You could just listen. Sometimes people just need someone to talk to.
Can I say one more thing concerning what Rich was saying?
Of course you can.
No, because I'm just surprised I'm talking too, because Robert always encouraged me to talk, because I'm usually the person that plays the background, and being a minister assistant over our survivor circle and what we're doing is still new to me. But it's so happy. It's crazy. I was reading this page. I think I was using it as a reference with someone earlier, but we're talking about what can we share with them or what can we tell them. But I wanted to share reasons why men may stay silent, right? And so right here on this page 13, which is just breaking the silence. And some of the things that are in the book is the fear that we face. Well, because most men won't admit it or share. The fear that we face blame is one of them. The difficulty of discussing our experience. That's still something that I every day would tell it in my story. I have to remind myself I'm in a healed place, right? And so I don't feel the same way I did before telling my story, but I still have to remind myself, because most people think you're sharing your story, you're good now, but it's still a journey, right? The fear that people won't believe us is definitely one of those things. A failed attempt to disclose our experience. I have told people and it didn't go the way I wanted at all, right? The fear of our predators. I definitely was, and I know that happens a lot. I definitely was scared of the men that sexually assaulted me, and that was from all my years. Shame, the shame of how you feel, the shame of how people are going to make you feel. If I open up, and people make you feel like less of a man, the lack of trust in anyone around us to share our experiences. We feel responsible for it as if it was our fault, may not cause you to step up, confused about our entire experience. Some men, as both of you stated, may not even understand. And I'm hoping, and not maybe not to read this book or another resource that, hey, it actually happened to me, and also we enjoy the non-sexual aspects of the relationship. Wow. And we felt like there was no point in discussing it. So I just felt the need to share that because of why people always say, why man won't just open up, right? It's a list, like, and also with us, us making the man, or taking on the Superman complex, right? Like you have to do everything for everybody. You really don't have time for yourself. Have to be strong all the time. And that's another thing I'm saying that and sharing with you guys. I know it's hard. I know it's tough, but you don't have to be Superman. You don't. This being a man and what people told you has to be like a man should be able to express his emotions, right? A man should be able to I don't know, to just be open and vulnerable. So I'm speaking to the men right now that I know there's opposition everywhere you're facing right now. And you have so many reasons why you wouldn't share your story. And even, let me just say this, even reading this or connecting to us, we're not telling you to share your story out loud, but right. Even as our Survivor Circle group, having a community in which we're on the journey to wholeness with the guys, right? Like, yeah. Even just surrounding yourself with a community is big. So I just want to say you have every reason not to, but it'll also change your perspective on why when you start to connect with people just like you. So I just want to say that.
Yeah. So in that same vein, where can they find you guys and get connected to this kind of stuff?
So for the Survivor Circle, we have a Survivor Circle group, which we were just stating. So in other words, which we have written down, which is on here, people to find. When you look, it says this is a space for men from all walks of life to engage in a safe space to share their experience and empower one another to become the best versions of ourselves. And Rob says this saying, what is it? Healing is a destination. What is it? How does he say it? Healing is a journey. Wholeness is a destination.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we have it's plenty of resources. It's men that first of all, there's men with numerous and different stories, and some are alike, some aren't. But we're related that we're survivors, and it was so important to have a group to which we would let the guys know we're just here on your journey to heal, to wholeness. We're not expecting you to step out and share your stories like us. We're not expecting you to share with your families and just, and just be it. And also there's men that we've been, we share intimate things in there. And some men, just recently said, hey, it's hard to forgive. I haven't forgiven yet. I don't know where to start. Well, this is a point where we meet you and where we start with you. We just, so the Survivor Circle is that for the person that is survivor. And also not just that, we provide resources too, and we're building this up. So not just survivors. If you're a man and you're an ally and you're an advocate, and so if which you're a therapist, if you know anybody that's therapists, counselors that deal with these things, that want to be a part of our movement and to be able to help all of us, because we can share our stories, but then you need that professional aspect of things, right? And we never want to misconstrue things and lead people on. We're on this journey with you, but we're also not just giving our stories out. We're also providing resources for you. So in so many words, that's what the Survivors group is on, Survivor Circle group is on Facebook.
On Facebook? Okay. The Survivors group. Okay. Do you guys have any other resources, or you want to share your Instagrams or anything like that if they want to get in touch with you guys?
So my Instagram, which is just, well, I guess, find me on Facebook, because my Instagram is just, even though I respond on there, it's more so just pictures, that I've taken. But on Facebook, my name is Daquan White, and you can find me on there. And also I'm gonna speak for Robert as well, Robert Marshall on Facebook and Instagram as well. And so you can reach out to him rather on there on Facebook, and then Rich, you can.
You can find me on Facebook, Rich Griffiths. You can also find me on Instagram at king_rich.g. And I have I do have a personal website, richgriffiths.com, that I can also be contacted through. And of course, as I've mentioned before, I am a therapist. My wife is a licensed therapist, and we have a practice together.
Awesome.
Crown Life Counseling, PLLC.
Cool.
And I can share that link with you, and you can put it. I don't know if there's a way to like share it in the body of the post or whatnot.
Yeah, I'll put all these things in the description for everybody.
Perfect. So yeah, so that's how you can find me.
Yeah. So you guys just send me everything, and then I'll put in the description for everybody. Cool. So I'll put that on YouTube and on Instagram. And on the description for all the podcasts. So if you guys want to watch this, you can go on YouTube, like, subscribe, all the things that people do there. But yeah, I just want to once again just thank you guys for coming on the podcast. And I want you to know, Daquan, the Lord is proud of you for stepping out and doing this.
Absolutely.
And take some time today, because I know you're not used to sharing so much. So just self-care after this.
Look,
I just want to let you know that.
I'm learning the hard way.
Good.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take some time.
Yeah. Good for you. So, yeah, you guys don't have to be strangers. It was like an awesome opportunity to speak to you guys. So
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having
us. All right, guys. So as you know, you can follow the Parallel at the Parallel Pod on Instagram and on TikTok. You can also follow us on YouTube as well. As you guys know, remember to speak the truth in love and kiss the sun. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.